Welcome to another episode of Mastermind Bites. Hi, my name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Whether it's to increase their credibility, expand their exposure, or create multiple streams of income for them. Now, on Mastermind Bites for today, I get to feature another amazing individual. And the reason why I do this is because over the last few years, I've had the privilege and the honor to meet some amazing people, some very successful individuals, and some masters of their skill sets. And I got to hear their stories, learn from them, be in their presence, and just absorb that energy, absorb that knowledge. And I wanted to be able to share back some of those stories, some of those lessons that I've learned from these amazing people. And today, I'm very excited to be able to feature Mr. Nathan Fillion, because not only is he a voice actor and an actor himself, and also does so many roles that I've actually really enjoyed watching, like his role in Castle and also Firefly and Rookie. He's also the voice of Green Lantern in Justice League. But the fact that he's actually from my very hometown, that makes it all the better. Because being in Edmonton, Alberta, being able to become an actor is not exactly something you would actually dream of. So for him, it was actually a pipe dream to become an actor and become famous in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. But so that's why he actually had a backup plan of becoming a teacher, and he was on his way of becoming a teacher until he got his big break, and he moved out and became the star he is today. So I thought that was absolutely amazing, because just knowing the fact that he's from my very hometown, when I hear him talk about references from places that I know or places I go to or places that I recognize, I go, hey, I'm from there too. So it's kind of neat. And because of that, I actually follow a lot of the stuff that he does and watch a lot of shows that he does as well. Now, throughout the industry and throughout his peers, he's known as one of those people who's always very grateful and always very thoughtful and always very willing to give back to people. And there's a few stories that I would like to share where it comes down to how much he's willing to give back. For instance, he's one of the very few people that I know where when he's doing a Q&A session or a panel session, and at these Comic-Cons and at these conferences and whatnot, he would actually mix in some Q&A with an auction. And this auction is for charity. And one of those charities that he supports a lot is Operation Smiles. So in between 3-4 questions, he would do a little auction thing of stuff that he's collected over years, and maybe some props, some things that he signed, and he will auction those items out. In an average of about an hour-long panel or an hour-long Q&A session, he could actually generate and get fundraise up to anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 within an hour for Operation Smiles. And throughout all the panels I've seen, throughout all the Q&As I've seen, he's really the only one I've noticed that does this all the time. And I thought that was a great way of maximizing the time and also maximizing his ability to generate funds for a very good cause. So I thought that was kind of neat to mention. Another thing is he always gives back to his hometown. He gives back to where it all started. There's a theater here in Edmonton that's no longer as prestigious as it used to be. So he actually created this fundraiser and this contest where if you win, you might get a lunch with him at his home, at where he's living now and whatnot. Your flight tickets will be paid for, your hotels will be paid for, but all that money generated is to give back to that theater where it all started for him, because that's where he started off his acting career. So I thought that was also kind of neat. And the third story about how willing he is to give back was recently, I think it was a few months ago, there was a story that came out that there was a lady at a Costco who didn't have enough money to pay for gas. And the Costco attendant just goes, you know what, I'll pay for it. Just remember to pay it forward. Well, that lady turns out to be Nathan Fillion's mother. And once Nathan Fillion realized this, in order for her to pay it forward, what he did was he went and bought a whole bunch of iPads and earphones and donated it to a senior home here in Edmonton, and also gave recognition to the attendant to bail his mother out. But on top of that, he then also donated another $5,000 to the food bank just because he wanted to. And I thought that was a nice little story of paying it forward. And his paying it forward really made a big difference to that senior home. And he's, like I said, always giving back to his hometown and always recognizing where he came from and where it all began, which is all the way back in Edmonton, Alberta. I know I said 3 stories, but I thought the 4th story here was kind of interesting as well. Like I said, he's one of those people who's known within the industry and within his peers to be very thoughtful. And one story was from Michael Rosenbaum, another actor, another voice actor, who said that, yeah, when you came over, you remembered to bring a gift. And I thought that was very thoughtful. And in reply to that, Nathan actually said that, yeah, I always bring a gift because my mother taught me every time you go to somebody's house, always bring a little gift just to recognize and acknowledge your gratitude and be thankful for being invited. So I thought that was, okay, that's kind of neat. And then the conversation went on, and it turns out that he has this closet full of gifts, a closet full of random items that he goes, ooh, that's kind of neat. So instead of buying one, he'll buy like 5 or 6 of them and then store them in the closet. And then maybe he goes, hey, these props are kind of neat. I could take them home. Okay, he puts them in the closet. So he's generated a whole bunch of stuff in his closet that he could utilize as gifts whenever he needs to. So I thought that was actually kind of neat because deep down, like I personally do have an area in my home where I store a whole bunch of stuff where I could go, okay, these are all going to be future gifts for somebody. I don't know who, but I'm going to utilize this as gifts whenever I need it. So I'm like, hey, he does the same thing. So I thought that was kind of neat. So like I said, he's a person who's done a lot in his industry and also has been very, very successful in what he does. Now, after watching his interviews and watching a lot of his panels and also hearing him speak live and also meeting him, there's 5 main things that I thought was pretty important when it comes to business success, entrepreneurship, and also personal success as well. Number 1, that would be, it always starts off difficult, but once it gets higher and higher up, and once you get more successful, things get a little bit easier, and always remember those people around you. So that's number 1. Number 2, it's managing your expectations. Number 3, breaking it down and practice. Number 4 is the thing is you have to make people comfortable around you. If you can make people comfortable around you, then you can make them do the things that they're good at with the best quality. And number 5 is there's never an end. There's always that next thing that you can always achieve. So those are the 5 things I thought was really important, and I could go back a little bit, back. So number 1 was the getting started is difficult, and he basically said that especially in the industry of entertainment and acting, you would probably have to go through a lot of garbage before you become big, before you become recognized and become that star that people gravitate to, and more opportunities come. So the thing is, you have to wade through all that, those challenges, wade through all that crap before you get to the good stuff. And as you build relationships and you remember the people around you and you keep those relationships well, then eventually you might work with each other. And as you get more and more higher up in that status, then you can actually go back and get, hey, let's work together. We've worked together before, and things get a little bit more easier. And that's the same thing in business. Working in business, working in entrepreneurship, and building your own thing is very difficult at the very beginning. But once you start that ball rolling, once it starts going higher and higher, it gets a little bit easier. And if you built those relationships at the beginning, it's a lot easier to work with those people again when you're at that more successful stage, and you keep on building those relationships, and you can leverage those joint ventures and leverage those relationships and build something together, which I thought was really appropriate when it comes to entrepreneurship and business. Number 2 was managing your expectations. He's always said, you hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. It's almost like the mindset of what's the best thing that can happen, what's the worst thing that can happen, but what's most likely, and can I accept the worst thing if I could have a chance of getting the best thing. So he's one of those people that always are thinking about, okay, I hope for the best, but I could plan for the worst. The thing is, he's also one of those people that would like to be able to control what he can control and not worry too much about the stuff he can't control. So for instance, like I said, managing expectations, you can only manage the things that you can control. So for an audition, for existence, when he goes to an audition, you can't control what the people think. You can't control what other people do. But what you can control is how much time you put into practicing, how much time you prepare, how much effort you put into it, what kind of decisions you make. Do you go with this approach or that approach? So you can control all that stuff. And for the things that you can control, he basically says, make sure you control it the best that you can. And all the stuff you can't, then just let it go and just hope for the best. And then plan for the worst. So managing our expectations. And that's really what we should all be doing in business and entrepreneurship as well. Just hope for the best, but plan for the worst and be prepared. Always be able to control the stuff you can control and don't worry too much about the stuff that you can't. Number 3 is practice, practice, practice. Now, for somebody who's been in the industry of acting for so long, there was a question that goes, is there a secret when it comes to memorizing your lines or preparing for your lines? And the answer that came back was kind of shocking to me, because he basically says, well, yeah, there's this big thing. And what that little mindset is number 1, who are you going to be? Number 2, where do you want this to be? And number 3, you just keep on reciting lines over and over and over and over again. So basically, it's just practice, practice, practice. So that's no different than each one of us. If we wanted to do some presentations, or we wanted to go and negotiate a deal, or we want to go and buy a property, well, you have to practice. The more time you spend preparing, the more time you spend practicing those lines and practicing those speeches, then you get better and better and better at it. And that's basically what they do. Even for somebody who's a professional, who's been memorizing lines for so many years, he still needs to practice, practice, practice. So for somebody who's so successful already, if he needs to practice, then why aren't you practicing? Aren't all of us practicing what we want to do better at? So practice, practice, practice. Number 4 is always, always, always make the people around you feel comfortable. And the story behind that was there was a question that came up asking him, when guests come up to your show and they get nervous, what do you do? Or when guests are at your show and they don't want to screw up because they're that new person in that group and they're nervous, they're anxious, what do you do? And he's been known within the industry and his peers for being that person that really welcomes people into his family, welcomes people into the crew so that they feel comfortable. And the reason being is he's been in a few situations where he's been on as a guest star for another show. And the only thing you think of is, I don't want to be here. I want to get this done. I want to get out. And the results are that his performance on that show is not as high quality as he actually would like it to be. But that's because he didn't get that trust built within the crew. He didn't have that familiarity, that comfort level with the people around him, with the other actors and the other actresses. So he goes, you know what? If I could get the guest stars in our show to be comfortable, to be relaxed, to have fun, to have trust in us, then they would have a better performance. And then another story of his that kind of reiterates that a little bit more was when he got his big role in Saving Private Ryan. And one of his biggest things that he had to do was he had to cry on camera. And for one reason or another, he just couldn't cry. He had the actions of crying, but he couldn't get tears out. And he felt so bad. And this was his big movie break. And he was the first time he was on this big movie set. He was working under Steven Spielberg, and he just felt so bad. And he felt so embarrassed. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And then Steven Spielberg came over and just kind of sat down and talked to him. He goes, well, okay, don't worry about it. This is a wide angle shot. We probably couldn't even see the tears. You did great. And he goes, no. I really want to be able to do the best job that I can. And then Steven just basically sat there, talked to him a bit more, gave him a little bit more perspective and helped him out. And all of a sudden he kind of got into that zone and he could cry. And then Steven's like, okay, I think you're ready. So for Steven Spielberg to come in, make him comfortable, get him kind of relaxed and trusting in the direction, he was able to perform to the best of his abilities. So he kind of applied that to what he wanted to do with other guest stars in his shows to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel that they can trust them so that they can perform the best that they can perform. Another example was also, the thing is, he would also crack a joke with them as well. If one of them goes, oh no, I can't, I might forget a line, or I feel bad screwing up or something like that. He goes, well, no, if you feel bad screwing up and you feel bad about all this other stuff, then all the other crews will make me feel bad because I sometimes screw up too. So don't worry about it, because the more you worry about it, you're gonna make me look bad when I forget my lines. So he cracks a little joke there. He breaks the ice, makes them feel comfortable, gets them to trust them, and then they're able to perform the best to their ability. So this is no different for us when we're welcoming a new team member, when we're coaching a new client, when we're meeting new people, when we're building more relationships. We need to make them feel comfortable, make them feel relaxed, and make them feel trusting in us in order for there to be collaboration or joint ventures or even just having a good conversation. So I thought that was absolutely important in the business world as well. And then finally, there was a question that was asked to him, when do you ever feel like you've made it? And his answer is, every time I make it to the next step. So he has this vision. It's like, well, I would make it if I get it onto this talk show. And once he's on that talk show, it's like, oh, then I will make it if I'm on this movie. Then he gets a movie role. He's like, oh, and then I'll make it when I get that role, and then he gets that role. So every step of the way, there's always something new. So he never ever gives him that stop project, or that project that ends everything, that tells him he's made it. Because once he makes it in his mind, then he feels that it's all over. And same thing in entrepreneurship. The moment you believe you've made it, then you're going to go backwards. You have to always push. You always have to have that ambition to keep on driving, to do more, to achieve more, to impact more. And the more you think about that, the more you will grow. And sure enough, Nathan Fillion has constantly grown, constantly expanded his network, constantly expanded his roles, because he's never admitted that he's made it. He's always thought of, hey, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And that's something we all should think about too, in order for us to be successful as well. So just to recap those 5 things, number 1 is, it usually starts off difficult, but once it goes off, remember those people around you, work together, and then things will get a little bit more professional and a little bit more easy to go. Number 2, manage your expectations, and also never ever let things that you can't control govern you. Number 3 is the practice. Number 4 is make sure the people around you are comfortable and trusting in you. And then number 5, what's that next step? What's that next thing? Never, ever give yourself that end project and go, that's it, you've made it. So those are the 5 lessons I've learned from Nathan Fillion. I really enjoyed looking into what Nathan Fillion does. And like I said, even better that he's from Edmonton, Alberta, where I'm from. And it was a joy just doing this episode, because it feels like there's an attachment there. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. And also go back and see some of my other episodes in Mastermind Bites. And if you liked Mastermind Bites, we also have the Peak Potential Success Show, the Make More Mind Bites, and also Unlocking the Mind Behind Make More, Work Less. So until next time, today is the day to unlock your potential. We'll see you later.